quick YouTube video here. It's kind of like a build update. My name is Scott, and I'm working on it's a Sky Hunter right there. Got 100 hours of flight time on it, and it was kind of the test subject for all the components, cameras, and basically configurations. I just didn't want to put the time and effort into a really expensive build and then crash it, basically because of incompetence. So I decided to build this one and fly it for a while and make sure that it was good and I could range test everything. So either way, let's get into it. So here's the Gemini V2, and I built everything on this bench right there. I made sure the bench was nice and flat and level before I started building, and then laid out the plans, and just made sure everything was right, and so far it's turned out great. I haven't actually flown the plane yet, still building it, but I do have most of it completed. One thing that I didn't do is this is actually permanent. Didn't do the best job covering right here, but for all intensive purposes it will work. But anyway, so I'm using these servos. I believe they're ARG RC or AFC RC. They're the same manufacturer that makes Futalva servos. They're digital, and they can handle high voltage, but I'm just using 5 volts because the BEC, and that's all underneath here. And you'll have to excuse this wiring mess, it's not completed yet. Using the Cube Orange Plus with ADS-B. I've got the Here 4 GPS, and I'm using Here Link as the primary flight controller radio, like S-Bus, and then also have an RFD 900X. I'm waiting on an enclosure for this, and it'll get mounted underneath of here, which is going to be interesting. And then I'm also waiting on back-ordered flex antennas from RFD. I don't know how long that's going to take. These are the 2 dBi antennas. I do have it set up to where I can run S-Bus through the RFD as well as Mavlink. Just going into telemetry 2, or actually, yeah, telemetry 2 port on there. GPS is CAN bus, and then the UART from the Here Link, which is the Navlink essentially, is running on 900 some thousand baud to the Here Link, and then this is 57,600 baud. But I have tested the S-Bus out of the RFD, and basically the way it works is if the Here Link completely shuts off or fails or isn't sending an S-Bus signal, there's a wire harness that goes from RC in, and one of those goes to, it's actually just powering it right now. This is the S-Bus connection right here, out of the RFD. Is basically there's a wiring harness, a Y harness between the Here Link and the RFD, and the RFD does not put out any S-Bus signal until you enable joystick in Mission Planner. So basically what you would do is you have your ArduPilot on your computer connected and running, and then you also have your Here Link controller, and let's say you're out flying and the Here Link shuts off or there's a major problem, you still have Mavlink and S-Bus from the RFD 900, which I've never actually lost signal with that using the 2 dBi gain antennas on this airplane. Got a lot of flight hours on this airplane. It's done really well. I felt comfortable enough to actually spend the money and take the time to build this. I got Spike to make me a battery. I believe it's 30,000 milliamps at 6S. And then I have the CE 4K gimbal right there. And then I also have two separate FLIR cameras. I was gonna go with this originally. This is the Duo Pro R640 with the 13mm lens, but it ended up it's too big. The gimbal and the camera itself were too big to actually fit inside the airframe. I would have had to make some serious modifications. Would have really affected the aerodynamics. So I went with the View Pro R640. It has the same functionality, same specs as the Duo, except it doesn't have the EO sensor on the side, which makes it quite a bit smaller and lighter. So we went with that. This is definitely rudimentary, and it's probably going to get upgraded at some point, but the servo mount here, I've got a fairly large servo running the steering, and so yeah, we've come along quite a ways in the build. This, once I get the CG figured out, this will actually get recovered. I'm not actually going to put anything in here, so it and the battery will stay in the airplane, so it'll get recovered. I'm also going to cover this part to seal in the ESCs. There you can see the ESCs that I'm using. I did want to try to run flaperons on this airplane. So each one of these aileron servos are set up to a different channel. So it will be I guess they would call that flaperons actually. And yeah, so and I do need to move. Spike suggested that I move the landing gear forward to this point right here. So the landing gear should be centered here, so it needs to come forward a good 2 inches. I don't really want to do that, but the man knows what he's talking about, so I'm probably gonna go ahead and do that anyway. There's the mount for the CE gimbal, and then I'll probably put the FLIR behind it here. I actually don't know how this is all going to work. I may have to relocate this to up front and up top. I'm not sure yet. That would give me a better bird's eye view, and then the FLIR will be used for bottom down. And I'm still looking for a gimbal for the FLIR. I don't want to buy another Grimsey. Those things are super expensive. And the import tax is like 150 bucks. So yeah, and then these tires are definitely maxed out. I'd like to put a little bit of air pressure in them. I'm not really sure, so if anybody knows, please put that in the comments. But yeah, so this is what I'm working with, and the wings are over here. I still need to make the ailerons and mount them, and then configure and program the servos for the ailerons, and then we'll be ready to range test.